It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and we are talking trauma and wish fulfillment today. And I am going to proceed very cautiously. I did a previous take of this video and threw it out because I want people to actually be able to receive the message without getting reactive. But on this topic, it's almost impossible. Somebody's going to get reactive and hear things I didn't say. But I'm going to try because I think this is important based on conversations I've been having lately. And I apologize for the audio issues with this new headset. I had to get it in a hurry. I am still working, I'll say the kinks instead of the bugs out because it's funner. But yeah, bear with me. There are going to be audio issues. I keep looking up help files. Things come with no documentation now, and you have to look things up. And there's not very much on the Corsair headsets. I'm not finding a menu. Anyway, I am aware of it. Thank you for your patience. I'm doing my best. It's frustrating. But let's get on to the topic. Actually, let me do the help support this channel and then we'll dig in. Okay, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. If I have to buy another new microphone because I can't figure out the problems with this, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. A lot of Leanna Care sessions inform what I talk about here. Or men's group GoFundMe. We are building that way. Zelda video is going to be next week. It's written. I've picked the clips. I just not have had a chance to record or edit it. So I am not rushing those. Better good than fast. So, okay. Wish fulfillment and trauma. And this is inspired primarily by some of the discussions I have been having about Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm going to avoid spoilers because it's way too early. I have started over my playthrough because I want to see not thirsty to the point of scary Gale. I want to see how the developers actually intended the characters to be instead of a low threshold bug. But there's also a ongoing discussion I've had with a couple of people about the idea of it just takes time, just let it go, stuff like that. And I think the two are linked here in terms of wish fulfillment because a lot of wish fulfillment is stuff we feel shame about or stuff we're suppressing or repressing coming out in odd ways. And wish fulfillment and this kind of tender stuff, it has to be approached with care and compassion, but it does inspire very strong feelings, and it's very difficult to balance both. Because I know with Shadowheart, she's another one of those characters, and oh my god, these characters are all over the place now, but she's one of those characters that I have had experiences with women like that in the past. This is not a spoiler. This is her starting character trope, starting character class. She is a trickery domain cleric of Shar, which means canonically she's a lying priestess of lying. And she is the most popular romance in the game. And I think that statistic, this is why I don't like big data analytics approaches to games. I think it has its place, but when you get a statistic like that, data-driven creative developers and certainly the publishers who just like money are like, that's popular, do more of that, instead of looking at, well, you've got a whole bunch of conventionally hot guys on the guy's side. The guy who turns into a bear is a figurative bear as well. And then you've got Shadowheart, who is the only conventionally attractive woman who's a, core party romance option, and you've got a Githyanki. What? Yeah, if you know D&D, they're sort of, green furred monkey monsters. Is that fur? Is it skin? I don't know. I never considered the Githyanki that. I like them as a monster race, but they've been really redone for 5th ed too. I'm getting so confused with all the additions. I'm a 2nd ed person in my brain. All this change is hard. That was a joke for people who want to dismiss me based on a joke. But then you've got and Lae'zel's uh, I don't like that there's so much hate for that character because she's supposed to be rough at first. Some cheesy ass dialogue, but and then there's Karlach, who's awesome, but she's basically the nameless one from Torment, but a girl who's red skinned instead of gray. Red skin, oh my god, it's like actual red, not the slur for indigenous people. Oh, language. But you've got one conventionally attractive woman and two, I like them, but they're monsters. And when I was a kid, I grew up wanting to be Beast from X-Men, so I was not normal. I thought Beast was perfect guy growing up. So, and I know that's not normal. So I look at that and go, yeah, there's an obvious reason Shadowheart's not Shadowheart is the most popular single romance option character because the choices just sheerly based on ego-driven wish fulfillment. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get ahead of me. With the guys are going to be more spread out. People aren't going to make snap judgments of this doesn't I'm going to pick the one that conforms to my idea of what I'm supposed to want. And I have found a lot of people, men and women. Shadowheart's a straight up brown hair McPonytail. That is the only acceptable type of woman out there right now. And it's so pigeonholed that even though she's a lying priestess of lying, this is hashtag feminism. Like, what? There are other hair colors, but apparently we're not allowed to use them because the minute it's a hair color other than brown, you're objectifying someone. This grows out of my head naturally. Thanks. That's fun. And yes, Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that makes me feel actively bad to play. Because of this. Because it's like, fuck. But of course, she's going to be the most popular romance option. She's the only conventional pretty girl. But I think there's more to it than that based on my conversations with people who are very, very, very upset when I say, and obviously this is a reductive statement because I find it funny. I call Karlach the nameless one femme edition. People don't get upset at that. But I point out that Shadowheart is a literal lying priestess of lying. And I had one conversation where I was like, she's a priestess of Shar, man. She's not a priestess of Shar. What's her class? Cleric? That's a priestess of Shar. She's a priestess of a lying deity. And she's a trickster domain cleric. But people don't want to see it. For a bunch of different reasons. And it's not just because Shadowheart is safe pretty. It's also because we have this thing where this is where I get into our beauty standards are too narrow. And I say this because what I find attractive is considered weird, or I must be lying, or no, you really don't feel that way. And that pisses me off because why the fuck would I lie about that? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. But it's this, we've made people attracted to women feel guilt, feel shame about physical attraction. And more people are going to be more physically attracted to more conventionally beautiful people. And I say this is somebody, who, not really, okay, like on either end. I don't consider myself a conventionally attractive person. I'm not a B cup, brown hair, McPonytail, under 130 pounds, look like you could snap me with a twig. I mean, Shadowheart has a padded undershirt, a male shirt that goes down past her hips, and then a leather cuirass over that. There is that much armor all around her, and she's still a size 4 to 6 dress. Think about how skinny that is under all of it, carrying that armor, walking around in all that armor. Someone who's worn it means you put on you have to have more muscle than somebody that teeny tiny would have. It's frustrating because, anyway, that's not the topic of this video. And I mean, my wish fulfillment is seeing different kinds of beautiful in a game. And my ideal is not represented in the game. And this is what I find very interesting, because am I disappointed that my wish fulfillment ideals aren't represented in the game? I mean, Karlach, yeah, closest. But you guys know I want like Megan Thee Stallion in like a Dynahir type character from the original Baldur's Gate. That would be like just, I will break you with a magic missile. That's what I'd want. And that's not there. And I am disappointed. Does that mean I'm demanding it? No, I'm using this as context. I can't help that that's what I like. I can't help that that's what would be a validating choice for me. And I'm not demanding it. I get that for a lot of nerdy guys, the idea of having a pretty girl interested in you is wish fulfillment, and that is completely understandable. The fact that she has to be a lying priestess of lying is like, what is going on here? And the fact that so many people, I shouldn't say that. I like pretty girls talking to me too. I shouldn't just say guys. It lesbians I'm talking to you too, or women attracted to women, I'm not going to get into the game analysis here. I want to talk about the fact that shame makes us crave things that are bad for us. Because it's a combination of wanting our own past transgressions forgiven, and also thinking we don't deserve better. So it inverts, right? Instead of the core driver being, I want to be accepted, flaws and all, understanding that I'm working on it, but I'm not there and may never be. Everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants to be accepted. That is a human thing. We get so shamed and so punished for having that desire. We come from really invalidating environments where the minute we try to be accepted and loved, we have somebody pointing out every single fault we have. And so it sort of shifts into, I'm gonna save the lying priestess of lying from herself as sort of indirect validation of me. Because one, nobody with their shit together is going to be interested in me. And two, I go after broken women because I myself am broken. It would be a totally different thing if the game was remotely self-aware, and the reason I don't think that Larian is making Shadowheart deliberately toxic is because they rewrote the character from early access to be more likable, you know? And I could be totally wrong. It's just yikes, you know. I give Asterion more of a pass because he's a bullshit artist too, but he's shiny vampire, right? If we don't see that coming, I mean, I had the same immediate reaction to Alucard in Castlevania, the Netflix show. Like, oh god, crying Bishi half vampire. Fuck. Right now, Asterion, I grew to more and more. I'm like, all right, I see what they're doing. They're playing with the trope. They're subverting expectations to an extent. I have not had my expectations with Shadowheart subverted. And yes, I know the twist. I'm just not spoiling the twist. It she just seems like such a pandery character to me. And whether or not she is not the point. I am examining my own reactions here. And they come from a time where I would have been totally drawn in by that bullshit of, you know, you get closer to her by being deceptive, by lying, by manipulating. And then it's, oh, but she's not really so bad. You can make her turn good. And people say, but it's wish fulfillment. Why do you want to fulfill that wish? That's not a healthy wish. Well, our wishes aren't always healthy. And this is what I want to talk about. Not normal, being taboo and being unhealthy are not the same thing. A lot of social taboos are perfectly healthy. You know, being gay was a social taboo. At one point, there's nothing unhealthy about it. People are currently demonizing trans people. There's nothing unhealthy about being trans. It's not being able to do the things you need to do to be healthy. That's the unhealthy part. And a lot of social taboos turn perfectly harmless behavior into a fetish. You know, the fucking bear sex annoys the shit out of me. Because you guys know I love furries. I cosplayed as Chitara for fuck's sake and didn't think about what I was doing. Um, I don't necessarily think that people liking certain qualities that we have come to associate with animals is an abstraction that is unhealthy. I think that's perfectly fine. You know, if people want their sexy bunny girls or sexy wolf men, like, have at it. That isn't a thing in real life. It's not something we can directly one to one emulate, right? Okay, you can buy a fursuit, but I worked as a mascot. I'm good with that. That's not hurting anybody. People might think it's weird. I don't care. I find certain things that about vanilla relationships weird, like this thing about feeling drawn to wounded bird, lying priestesses of lying, who you can fix, who you can save. That is so self-destructive. And I really do believe that's based in trauma. Objectively, you know, I push people on this. I know, but. And the truly self aware will eventually say, you know, look, there's a stuff about me that I think if people knew, they'd hate me. I'm never going to be rid of it. And so, you know, basically they're accepting toxic abusive behavior because they don't think they deserve better. And that is not true. You can't do anything about things that happened in the past, except learn and grow. And I say learn and grow because some lessons help you grow. Some lessons keep you stuck. And the lesson of I am inherently unlovable. There is just something about me. This is something I felt very, very strongly uh, for a long time. So I'm not lecturing from someone who's never experienced, oh, it must be easy. No, I felt this acutely. Keep in mind, I spent years being treated as a dumb slut and a traitor to my gender because of a job I had that involved pinup modeling and a hot tub and, burlesque type stuff. I get it. And the for whatever reason, the experience of Baldur's Gate 3 is bringing back all those triggers, and I'm really fighting working through it. That and the shaming element of the lawsuit against Lizzo as well. There's some stuff in that lawsuit that actually isn't actionable to me. It just seems like they put it out there to embarrass her, which just seemed vengeful. And this is why, of all the things, I've had some interesting discussions with the reality of will and the literal deal with the devil in Baldur's Gate 3 as well. Those have been really interesting, but there's no way around the fact that Shadowheart is a liar who rewards lying. And that is a great way to get yourself into a relationship that will harm you in many, many ways. People who lie, who are defined by lies, lying priestess of lying, trickery domain, cleric of Shar, okay? Uh, they're not going to start telling the truth just for you. And I think a lot of people reach out to characters, not like it's a romance, but it's not just how they want to love someone, it's how they want to be loved. And the self-image of being inherently bad creates a lot of really self-isolating behaviors. And healing is tough. Healing is not something I can make a video about closure and post-traumatic growth. Those are highly specialized processes, which is why I do the one-on-one stuff. It's why we're starting up the group stuff, because there's no way to cover all the bases and do something responsibly in a video like this. These videos are intended as starting points. There's just no way to tailor it enough to be truly helpful in terms of emotional processing or healing or even understanding particular traumas. It's way easier to go this red flag. Green flags are very specific to the person. And I do think that the reason I find these conversations so interesting and the reason I like challenging people on Shadowheart specifically is because we have this really shame-oriented approach to beautiful, desirable women in games. And instead of broadening what we depict as conventionally desirable, we're rejecting the idea that a woman can be conventionally attractive but also moral. And that's not true of men, like I said, all the guys, are conventionally attractive in some way. They might not be your thing. They're not all my thing, but I have friends who thirst after every single one of them on purely physical grounds. And that's an issue, and that says something because it shows that games still don't understand the healthy role of wish fulfillment. It still does seem like it's trying to gatekeep desire. And I mean, the only other conventionally attractive woman in the whole party is, or female performing creature, is the demon attached to Will. Right? It says so much without intending to. And there does seem to be this hole. And I don't think that's a good thing, because I do think, I think characters like Shadowheart deserve to exist, because then we can have these conversations, right? We can have these discussions about the fact that she is a lying priestess of lying, and I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. It's not about that. It's about, look, take this opportunity that you chose the most conventionally attractive woman who is objectively the worst person of the bunch. She has the least nobility of all the women. It's cool to explore why. There can be real personal growth there. But I have been noticing trauma responses when I challenge that. And, it's not like there's plenty of damaged goods. It's not like there's not plenty of damaged goods in the guys in Baldur's Gate 3, but because of that sort of not as obvious, one of these things is not like the other in terms of physical attractiveness, there isn't this artificial choice funneling, and people seem less reactive. They're not as defensive of Asterian's asshole qualities, or pre-patch Gale being thirsty to the point of he'd probably get arrested and fired from his job in real life. And we can have interesting conversations about Will. Halston I haven't really cracked yet. I think it's because of the way I'm playing, but I mean, bear sex. I'm so sick of hearing about bear sex. And that's another thing. Please, if you're super excited about the lying priestess of lying, or the bear sex, or anything else about a character in the game, vampire biting sexual metaphor, anything like that, please, if someone doesn't want to hear about it, don't force it on them. They are not being a prude. They are not shaming you. It's just an overshare, and it may not be an appropriate point. But more on that later. I gotta run. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Or men's group, where we'll be able to unpack this more in kind of a dialogue. This is what I prefer to do, as a dialogue, so there can be back and forth, and I don't have to figure out how to cover as many bases. But thanks for watching, and be well.